Hey there, and welcome to another off-topic snippet. I'm going to be talking about Star Wars. Now, even 10 years ago, maybe even 5, if you said, boy, I like Star Wars, most people would say, yeah, me too, because, it's a huge thing. It's basically space fantasy. It changed a lot of the way the Hollywood blockbuster was looked at. Special effects were really changed by that. The use of concept artists to help pitch and imagine an idea for a film and then show it to a studio, it was really shown off by all that. The prequels, as silly as they were, have now sort of circled back around into a way that people love it, either ironically or unironically. And the animated series have all done very well. I'm not as big on Rebels. I'm still watching the Clone Wars. I know I have a Star Wars tattoo. I should already know everything about Star Wars, but I don't. That's why I have my wonderful wife, who I am marrying in T-minus like a day and a half. She actually knew that on Star Wars Kamino, the planet that made all the clones in Episode 2 and had the weird sort of albino giraffe-looking aliens, that they originally had a very normal planet that wasn't flooded. It was then flooded. They were obsessed with perfection. They wanted to go in and create a perfect race, so each Kaminoan, every member of the Kamino populace is actually a clone of the predecessor, and the only differences you get are because they're like, boy, I wish I was better at basketball. My next me will be. So they're very creepy. I don't know, it makes me think of that Tom Cruise movie that I can't think of, where he has all the precogs, and he looks in the future, and he has to have someone else's eyes, and oh boy, I might have to just look that up. Tell you what, kids, let's get some ASMR, I believe. Tom Cruise sci-fi movies. Already off topic. Oblivion, no. Edge of Tomorrow, no. Minority Report, see? As a white guy, him and Minority just don't go they're not synonymous in my noggin. Minority Report. Makes me think of that. Just a little unnerving. Enjoyable, but unnerving. Anyway, I want to talk about the fact that Star Wars used to be something that you could say, hey, I like Star Wars, and they'd say, I like it too. And now when you say, I like Star Wars, usually you either get, oh really, so what'd you think of, and then they mention one of the new things, and that either becomes, yeah, me too, or really? I think it's a twofold tactic, because when J.J. Abrams made the brand new movie, The Force Awakens, some people complained, he just made the last movies, but he made them all as one. He didn't do anything new. First of all, that was a great movie, and it was visually beautiful, and it's a clever way to make stormtroopers show up again, in that it's basically run by fanboys of the previous Empire. And tying into Battlefront 2 and Operation Cinder, it proves that it was actually a contingency plan, that if the Emperor died, he'd be like, alright, well, you guys scuttle off into wild space, hide, rebuild, and come back, but first I want you to kill as many of the people that killed me as possible. He's a real spiteful guy. Which brings me to the second part of all this. Not only has the cinematic world been taking a hit, but the video game franchises of Star Wars have taken a hit. Battlefront is a pretty clear sign. The original Battlefront, and original I mean the first EA version, not the original Battlefront, was created on a rushed budget and time strain in order to tie in with the new release of The Force Awakens, the first of the new trilogy. Had beautiful graphics, great ray tracing, sound design was fantastic. It's still quite beautiful, but there was almost no content. Now the second one came out, and it was so filled with loot boxes that people despised it. It caused EA's stock to drop 8.5%, which is worth $3.1 billion, and they handed it over to a smaller group of devs, which means things get done at a much slower rate, but it gets treated with a lot more love. The people in charge of it are very good about interacting with the fans, treating it well, and giving it the love that it deserves. But back to the movies. When J.J. Abrams made the movie, like, do you want to make the next one as well? He's like, no, that's not really for me. I appreciate it. I'm really busy, and I don't want to just be the Star Wars guy. I don't want to have to rush into this. So they got the guy who made Looper, which is a great movie, to come in and make it, Rian Johnson. And it's less what he made and the fact that it's so disconnected from what came before it and looks like it's disconnected from what's coming after it. And it sort of falls on J.J. Abrams' hands and head and shoulder, and it just falls on J.J. Abrams entirely, like a cartoony anvil, to try and make it a cohesive story. And I'm going to be honest, when they retconned Kylo Ren's scar to be a little bit less stupid across his face, because Adam Driver, fantastic guy, former Marine, does a lot of stuff to try and get former military people into a theater program to help them express themselves and find work. He's very talented, nothing against him. He has a big nose and ears. Like, he makes me feel better about myself, because I have a big nose and I have big ears. I don't have as, broad a chest as him, and I don't wear high-waisted pants. So, you win there, sir. But they changed the scar, and that was sort of the first sign that this guy had his own idea of what he wanted Star Wars to be. And it had a very sort of anti-war, don't abuse animals message, and I feel like at this point we know that killing people is best avoided if possible. So we didn't need to hear war bad, although Benicio del Toro's character was, as stuttery as he was, my favorite character on the whole thing. But then the whole animal abuse is bad, like, duh. Like, who did you make this movie for? Michael Vick? Calm down. It was very disconnected, despite the jaw-dropping visuals in it. It just didn't... It felt like a filler episode from an animated series or a filler comic book or a tie-in novel. It didn't feel like a mainstream, this is the story type of event. Anyway. Now, if they'd had a connected plan similar to Marvel, which is odd that they're both owned by Disney, and yet one has been handed with a meticulous, interconnected, overarching theme and visionary, and one has been sort of just left to whichever director shows up can handle it. And originally, the Jurassic World director was going to come in and finish out the series, and they're like, look, JJ, you did us good once, come back and do it again. And he's like, yeah, okay. And I'm sure this movie will be great. At the very least, it'll be a very satisfying movie in a vacuum. I think the hardest parts will be when it ties back to the middle, sort of, middle meat of the sandwich of The Last Jedi. Because he has to sort of bring it back. I think people are mad because they tried things too differently. They got mad when they didn't make it different enough. Everyone's going to be mad eventually, but I just wish it would have felt more cohesive. Because for all the mess of the prequels, they all felt cohesive, and for all the mess of the original trilogy, which is much, much less, aside from Luke kissing Leia and then us finding out that that was incest, there's not a whole lot of mess there. It's cohesive. It's a clear story of, the hero makes the deny of the call to action. He eventually embraces it. He's tempted, and he stays true, and he does the right thing. It's a great hero's arc, and I think it's a truly wonderful modern example of the hero's journey. And the modern ones just aren't. And with the video games, they have had a really rocky start. I mean, Battlefront has turned itself around. Battlefront is a game that I play every chance I get. The voice acting is amazing. They got the Clone Wars actors to come back. They even have comments like if Darth Vader shows up in your Anakin, he's like, oh, this must be some type of Sith mind trick or a vision. Like, it's cool, because these characters don't ever interact, although it is still awkward when Luke would be like, there's still good in you. He's like, Anakin Skywalker is dead. And then Anakin Skywalker's like, excuse you, I'm right here. I'm in the room. I'm over here beating Bosk to death. Could you not? So it's still strange. It's not canon, obviously, but it's darn fun. They've recreated a lot of the best aspects of the previous games. True, the hitboxes are a little annoying in Heroes versus Villains mode, and there's a lack of skins for the heroes. But if you're just playing Capital Supremacy or any of the major game modes, for the most part, by and large, you will be wildly entertained. And even me, who isn't the best player and loves playing Heroes versus Villains, I get a dopamine rush every time I'm in that. The game has turned itself around, and I think cinematically they're turning themselves around. But I think the fact that they dropped the ball so much, and it is held in such an insane high regard by fans and filmmakers alike, it's difficult to see. It's like watching your dad cry for the first time, or finding out that someone you look up to is human and can be flawed. We realize that this series can kind of suck sometimes, and I don't think fans, especially my age in their mid-20s, we grew up very young when the prequels came out. So we didn't have a bad Star Wars movie, because for us, they were still okay, even if they were cheesy or dumb. And this is the first modern, like, bad or at least divisive Star Wars experience in quite some time. Plus, the greed of a loot box-filled video game turned a lot of people sour. So I think this is sort of a bizarre and first-time experience for a lot of people to be like, I thought I could fully depend on this to work 100% of the time, and now maybe I can't. And it's not bad, but people need to understand that it is a franchise controlled by a million moving parts, from costume design and concept art to a board that approves what you can and can't say, what type of characters can be in there. It's a wonder that it worked ever. So take what you love and don't let go. Don't let the bad stuff get to you. They also killed off a lot of the animated series whenever the Disney acquisition started, because they were like, we're going to decide what's canon now. And I think that not having that constant drip feed of content, they were really on a roll, and I know they're bringing a lot of this stuff back, but there's been that period where we didn't have many video games, we didn't have a very solid film lineup. Rogue One was great. I really enjoy Solo. It could have been better, but look at what happened when directors changed on Justice League, and then look at what happened when directors changed on Solo. Solo is, by and large, just hands down a better film. So again, Star Wars is not necessarily a dead franchise, it's not a bad franchise, it's still a massive mega hit. I think now people are they're on the hate wagon, and it's trendy to hate things and be different, and ooh, you're so edgy with your different opinion. Not really. It's not cool to just be mean and hate things, unless it's young Sheldon. You can hate on that all day. But just enjoy what you can. It's okay to sort of embrace that childhood wonder of, I like Star Wars, I liked Yoda, I like the Clone Wars, you can like Jar Jar Binks if you want. You'll be in a minority, but you can enjoy it all you want. Star Wars is a franchise that has proven that it can't always be perfect, or at least it's capable of faltering. And I think that sort of shook people's faith. But I don't think it's done. I mean, I know I'm definitely still wanting to line up and pay $1,000 to make a fake lightsaber at Disneyland. I'm definitely going to pilot the Millennium Falcon there. I mean, if you don't think that's not somewhere in my plans for the first or second year of marriage celebration to go there and just Disneyfy myself through Star Wars, boy, you are wrong. So again, Star Wars. It's a franchise. Sometimes it messes up, but it's okay to like it, and I think, as rough as it's been, the franchise heads in power have figured out what sucks, and they're not going to do that, because even if they preferred things like The Last Jedi or the loot boxes, they know that the general populace will make enough of a fuss about it that it'll hurt their numbers. And when you hurt their money, that's the best way to get a large corporation or government body to change their plans. And at this point, I think Disney could probably buy a lot of the world. So, who knows? Maybe in the future we'll live on Mars and it'll be a literal Disneyland, or, like a Disney planet. And you know what? As capitalized as it would be, and as illegal as some things would be, I would live there. I'd live up my Blade Runner fantasies. I just never imagined that my sci-fi dystopia would be run by Mickey Mouse. So, have a little faith. Let the Force flow through you. Search your feelings. You know it to be true. The franchise is still good. It just went through a rough phase. This has been an off-topic snippet. I hope you had fun listening. I had fun talking. I mean, I'm basically just under a blanket so that this doesn't echo too poorly, so I'm actually sweating pretty profusely. But you know what? I do it for you. That's right. You listening right now, you're the reason I get out of bed. You have a great day.